My name is Esteban Carrillo. I am the news editor for The Cradle, and as usual, I'm joined by my friends and colleagues, content creator and writer for The Cradle, Karim Shami, and content creator and social media manager for The Cradle, Sima Itaim. Before we start, just a friendly reminder, make sure to hit that like button, to subscribe to our channel if you haven't, to check out our memberships, and above all, to check out our Patreon, where you can become a direct supporter of The Cradle, help us continue to do the work that we do here. Today, as we start, as the title says, there's been new reports, new revelations. I believe this is from Haaretz about a human trafficking and ethnic cleansing scheme for Palestinians in Gaza behind the so called Al Majid organization, that is an Israeli linked, quote unquote, humanitarian group that is essentially luring Palestinians out of Gaza and then sending them, well, they don't even know their destination, according to these reports. Sima, I know you know a lot more about this than I do, so I'll just let you give us an overview of exactly what this, latest scandal is about.
Sure. So prior to this Haaretz investigation coming out, we had the South Africa incident, if you remember,
Mhm.
Esteban, where over 130 Palestinians ended up in South Africa and Johannesburg and didn't even know that they were going to South Africa. They had stopped in Nairobi first, and they ended up there with no documentation. No one knew that they were arriving, and they were detained for at least 12 hours. So what's happening really with this situation, as far as what we know, especially with the new Haaretz report, is that it's a covert scheme, right? It's this mysterious organization that's run by a dual Israeli Estonian citizen that has been funneling basically Palestinians out of Gaza aboard like secret charter flights with Israel's knowledge and coordination. And we'll get into that. So on paper, this group called Al Majd Europe, it presents itself as a humanitarian group, excuse me, that's providing so-called aid and rescue to Muslim communities in conflict zones. And so in practice, it appears to be like a for-profit, unregistered, opaque operation, actually, because that's what we see. That's facilitating the removal of Palestinians in Gaza through Israeli controlled routes strictly, which is now an arrangement that's being described as human trafficking, fraud, shadow displacement, which is aligned with the political ambitions of Trump and Netanyahu, as you guys know.
Mhm.
So this guy has been identified as Tomer Janar Lind. He's the Israeli Estonian national. He holds both citizenships. He operates fake or shell companies in Estonia, in London, in Dubai. Um, and he has a pattern of forming companies that dissolve very quickly. And on the website, this group Al Majd claims that they were founded in Germany in 2010, but this is false because they also claim they have offices in East Jerusalem. This turns out to be false. The website was actually launched February 2025, which says a lot. Anyway, they also claim that they have aided victims of Turkey's earthquake and the Syrian war, and there's no evidence for it. And the project managers have no verifiable identity. So anyway, it seems to be looking like a shadow network of shell entities run by this guy that charges Palestinians at least $1,500 up to $2,700 per seat on a plane to unknown destinations. So basically, Palestinians in Gaza find the website shared on social media. It invites them to fill out a form to voluntarily immigrate. And then once it's approved, their families receive instructions via WhatsApp from an Israeli phone number. They have to transfer the cash per person. And then they are added to like a travel updates group on WhatsApp. And the night before departure, they receive like a secret location inside Gaza and they gather and buses take them through the Kerem Shalom crossing and they go to Ramon Airport near Eilat. Remember last time when I was talking about how when Yemen hit Ramon Airport, it had like this symbolic significance to it because it's where they were like pushing Palestinians out of Gaza from. So there are all these flights that go like like Budapest and then to Indonesia, Malaysia, or Nairobi and then Johannesburg and other destinations. And many passengers, as we've seen in recent days, even before this investigation came out, had no idea where they were being taken. Like they only learned that they were headed for South Africa after they landed in Kenya, right? So they were detained and because they had no documents and there's no explanation, at least 153 Palestinians. They had no departure stamps, no return tickets. And they were told nothing. So the authorities detained them for
Neither
like
were
up
the
to
South
12 hours.
Africans. Just to highlight, the South Africans were also unaware
Sure.
of this situation.
100%. They did. They said that they wanted to like investigate. And even the president commented that, you know, like they needed to look into the origins of the journey and where it started and why they were brought here. And there's this group, rights group, if I'm not mistaken, called Gift of Givers, the South Africa's charity group. They literally called this ethnic cleansing at its best because nobody, including the South Africans, as you mentioned, knew about this plane. So this is basically the secret like engineering of voluntary removal of Palestinians because they're sending them abroad without notifying them or the governments that are even receiving them. And you're basically stripping them of their belongings, their documents, and even their items, you know? So this is really exploitation and ethnic cleansing at its finest. And the Palestinian officials, like the embassy in South Africa, condemned this also as a very misleading organization that they collect money and they facilitate this travel in an irregular and irresponsible manner. And the Foreign Ministry of Palestine warned families to avoid falling prey to human trafficking networks, blood merchants, and displacement agents. So this is one of the strongest official statements we have describing any Gaza-related operation as human trafficking, basically. And the most important part is Israel's fingerprints here. Not only is the guy Estonian Israeli, but the defense ministry or war ministry, as we at the Cradle call it, is directly involved. Because remember, they established this migration director in 2024, and they said that the goal was to ease requirements for Palestinians leaving Gaza. And so basically what they do is they're referring Al Majd, this organization, to Kogat, which is the Israeli agency controlling Palestinian movement, to coordinate these departures, right? So other organizations have actually tried to evacuate Palestinians properly in a safer and less illegal way, but failed. So only Al Majd, which is this shadow organization, has succeeded, which is raising questions basically about like why was this group permitted while other groups were not? And Kogat confirmed that this flight, that it coordinated this flight and the passenger list. So yeah,
No,
go ahead.
it's insane. You know, the only thing I really want to comment on here is just like if these Palestinians are being told to assert to go to a certain area of Gaza to be picked up by buses, this has the complete coordination of the Israeli army, right? Like who's letting in these
100%.
buses? Who's transferring them to Ramon Airport? What authorities are there at Ramon Airport getting them on buses? And as you said, Sima, this has been the plan all along from the very beginning of the genocide, even before, honestly. But remember that, like, just days after the genocide started, some outlet leaked an intelligence, like an Israeli intelligence report that spoke about how to ethnically cleanse the strip, and now we're seeing it, being put into motion. And what legality is there? You know, like, what is the condition now of these Palestinians who are arriving in nations with no coordination, without documents? I mean, truly a horrific situation, and something that needs to be addressed, needs to be spoken out more.
Yeah, based on the numbers, at least 300 have left through this Al Majd organization. We have 40,000, an estimate of 40,000 who have left Gaza since the start of the war. At least 300 have left through this organization. And like you were saying, you know, this was not only Netanyahu's dream, but Trump's relocation dream. Remember the Gaza Riviera plan and all
Mhm.
that. And I feel like a lot of these things are falling through. Remember when Trump was openly talking about expelling Palestinians? And so now they're just trying like a covert approach to this because, again, like the US plans, as we're seeing with everything happening right now, don't turn out the way they want. So they try to attack their goals through covert means. So this is really one of those things that's happening. We don't know what else like this is going on. This is the only one we
True.
know about,
Very
right?
true.
So it is ethnic cleansing, right? Because it's like there's deception, there's like a false humanitarian pretext, a coercive environment. There's no right of return guaranteed. I mean,
Yeah,
if you don't have documents, what happens to you? And then there's the profit motive,
exactly.
and so yeah,
Exactly.
I mean, this is, at least 350, actually, not 300, and since May 2025. So we don't know what else they have cooking that is, achieving these same Israeli US goals, as Al Majd, Europe is. So yeah, that's basically the gist of it.
It's very upsetting, very dark. Karim, well, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I think they are trying it on a small scale, and they will see what will happen. Maybe they will later expand, because I don't think it's the first time. And previously, during the war, we heard that like three, four families paid money and they went through Egypt and they went to this country or that country. Now it's like it's being fully done by Israeli companies, and of course, as you said, with the coordination of the army. So I think it's a plan, and this is like it might be the starting point of a bigger plan.
Good point. Good point. It could be. I mean, I feel like this is a situation in which we're going to see many instances, many different attempts, many different ways. You know, they've been thinking about this for a very long time, and now they have carte blanche to implement whatever strategy they see fit. Well, as this news is breaking, um, tonight, well, today, the UN Security Council is supposed to vote on a U.S. presented draft resolution for the so-called Gaza peace plan that it appears the U.S. is getting a bit desperate about getting it approved, and the Israelis are not too happy about some of the changes that have been made because the U.S. is trying to get it through the UNSC. Among them, Israel is currently lobbying, pressuring, using all of their tools, all of the tools in their arsenal, to try to get the wording of a Palestinian statehood out of this resolution. The U.S., from what we understand, the reason why they have made these changes and the reasons why they are being so insistent on passing this resolution as soon as possible is to start getting commitments from Arab nations and, well, other nations as well, non-Arab nations, to commit troops for the so-called International Stabilization Force in Gaza, as you know, states across the board have essentially said we need a UN mandate, right? We're not just going to go in and like disarm Hamas. Many things happening, many questions as well about the Trump reportedly seeking to bypass the disarmament clause in his own 20-point plan, making changes, more changes that the Israelis seem very unhappy about. What do you guys think about this vote at the Security Council that is coming up later today?
So basically, the thing about like changing the Palestinian statehood language is pure hysterics because everyone knows, like you said, Esteban, that the only reason that they threw in this pathway to a Palestinian state into the resolution is to kind of like shut the Arab countries, Arab and Islamic countries up to have them on board. And they're already on board with Trump's resolution anyway, right?
Mhm.
I mean, there's a
They,
select
they, they
few
all
who
took
are
the
not on
picture.
board.
Remember Peace
Yes.
2025?
Right. So again, just to remind our viewers, this resolution, there is a US resolution and there is a Russian counter
Yes.
resolution or rival draft, which kind of seeks a middle ground. But so it's this temporary ISF, the stabilization force that we've been talking about, and the board of peace that would be headed by Trump himself and basically sit above like Gaza's future governance for at least 2 years. And this is being condemned by all Palestinian factions as foreign occupation, right? So that vote is tonight around 12 midnight our time. So I don't know what time US
I
time
think
that
that's
would
3
be,
p.m.
but
Eastern.
roughly, yeah. So
Hmm.
so the Russian draft is like it backs the US proposal, but it removes the board of peace and it doesn't immediately authorize deploying an international force. So it basically like calls on the UN Secretary General to like explore options, identify options for an ISF and report back. So that's the big difference because again, the US one, which is very controversial, is calling on foreign troops to go disarm Gaza. And like you were saying, we have the Israeli reports that Trump wants to fast track the plan and bypass the disarmament phase, which Israel is furious about because the US can't even get these troops together because nobody's accepting to be an enforcement force. They're only accepting to be peacekeepers, right? So anyway,
Hmm.
this whole
Hmm.
thing's being sold as a plan to stabilize Gaza, right? And the factions put out a statement that like all the Palestinian factions condemning this, um, Hamas, PIJ, all of them, right? So anyway, what again, if you can't get the troops together, then okay, they're if this passes, it passes, and then what? That's my question. But so you're giving Washington a broad role for governing Gaza. Um, and then this ISF, it's imaginary at this point, right? And we've talked about all the failed US plans, and we can talk
Yeah.
about it again. I mean, the GHF murdered thousands of Palestinians, but it failed. Biden's aid peer failed. It was used to also commit massacres, but
Yes.
it failed. And the ISF and the Board of Peace, I don't know what will happen, I'm not saying there's going to be some amazing like miracle, but this is definitely going to fail. And again, by the way, guys, about the Arabs are totally on board with Trump, the Arab and Islamic countries.
Mama, this is the problem.
Yeah, this is the problem. But so they basically um
No,
their idea is like Washington's the only one who can implement this. So
yeah.
of course we're going to support Washington. Go ahead, Karim, before I
Yeah,
cut
no,
you.
no. I just want to comment is that this is the problem. The problem is that Trump had this idea, and he doesn't have like political background, and I don't think they studied this idea before. He just said it, and the Arabs said, "Okay, we are with you. We are we are behind you. Do whatever you want." And now
Uh-huh.
they are stuck or they hit the wall. Okay, the plan can be implemented as easily as Trump said it. So
Mm,
there is many backgrounds that you have to have like the necessary equipment. You have to have troops that are trained and these stuff. And unfortunately, in the Arab world, we don't have such forces. The only country that I can think of, and eventually, if they want to implement this, the only country that can do this is Egypt. There's no other country that has this capability or have the relations balanced between Israel, United States, and Hamas, except Egypt.
mm. That's
I
look, that's the thing though. Sorry, Esteban.
no,
They
go
say
ahead, go
they're
ahead.
on board, but they don't want to go disarm Hamas. They're
No,
just they're on board from a distance.
you want money, take money. You want oil, take oil. Propaganda, take
Right.
propaganda. But
Because
Last
remember he sat them down and he was like, I won't let Israel annex the West Bank. I won't this, I won't that. And this promise here and that promise there. Of
yeah,
course
and he
they're gonna
mentioned
back him.
Pakistan like 3, 4 times. Pakistanis are happy. They want to participate, for
Yeah,
instance. Yeah.
Indonesia, Pakistan. Go ahead, Esteban.
I was gonna mention that last week I remember Politico had this report about a PowerPoint presentation that they had at the I don't think it was the
Right.
White House, but in Washington last month, in which there were like members of the White House, of CENTCOM, of the Army in general, etc. And they essentially went over the many reasons why Trump's plan cannot be implemented because there was never really an honest technical discussion in how to implement everything, right? um, it was literally, they. I remember Politico recreated one of the powerpoints. I wish I had sent it to you, Karim. It was just said, on the one side it said phase one, and you had all of the terms of the first phase of the ceasefire in Gaza. Then in the middle, literally an arrow with a question mark, and then phase two, right, which includes
Mm,
Hamas disarmament, the withdrawal of Israeli troops, well, everything that is included in the plan. So it's pretty apparent that this is just being pulled out of their asses as they go, especially Donald Trump. The whole Gaza summit, no, Cairo summit for peace in Gaza, the picture of peace 2025, it's a repeat of George W. Bush's mission accomplished. His little speech in front of the banner in the high seas. So just kind of putting all of, doing things backwards, right? You start at the end and then you kind of try to figure out a way to get there. But now, you're dealing with states, you're dealing with international law, you're dealing with armed groups, you're dealing with so many variables. You're dealing with people that have been genocided, that have been the victims of a modern day genocide. So they don't really have the answers. What they have is these schemes, right? Like Al Majid Europe, like you mentioned, Sima, the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, which the companies, Safe Bridge Solutions and UG Solutions, which are the two companies that were created also at the I forget if it was at the end of last year or at the beginning of this year, but they were very new companies as well, shell companies created to hire mercenaries for
Mhm.
GHF. These mercenaries that spend months killing starving Palestinians. So now, what the U.S. is going to present tonight at the UNSC. If it gets approved, then what exactly? I also don't have the answer. I don't know how they plan to implement it, and at the same time, you have the Israelis up in arms, right? Like the Israeli government, everyone being like, "How can you not talk about a Hamas disarmament? How can you, like, I don't know, like so many variables that they seem to be unhappy about the situation with Palestinian statehood, etc." So
Yeah.
it
And they're
just goes to
threatening.
show you how little thinking there was behind it.
And they're threatening. Like the US ambassador to the UN, Mike Waltz, he
Mhm.
wrote in the Washington Post that like any refusal to support this resolution is a vote to continue like Hamas rule or return to war with Israel. So it's a veiled threat. Like either you support our plan or you're choosing Hamas and endless war. And again, the funny thing is the plan isn't even like a concrete plan. So we're supporting something that's like not only foreign occupation, but it's not even like it's worked out. It's not like it's foreign occupation, but oh, everything's worked out down to and like it's all gonna be implemented. Like there's nothing. So you're like, support our plan, which is imaginary, or Israel will like I don't even want to say resume, because the genocide is still going on.
Yes.
And there's many humanitarian aspects we can talk about, with the rain flooding now that's happening, with
Mhm.
the killings. Over 3 people were killed since this morning in Gaza. So it hasn't ended. But yeah, so it's like, support us even though we don't really have a real plan, right? And this whole disarmament and enforcement versus peacekeeping is a very big problem, because again, like you said, we're not going to reach the second phase. Washington can't actually build the force that it wants to design. And like you said, so basically there were these Israeli reports, like Channel 13 and Times of Israel, saying that because the US is struggling to get countries to commit to disarming Hamas and other factions, um, Washington's looking to skip it, basically, and move to reconstruction and governance.
My
And
God.
Israeli security sources are going crazy. Like, this is all unacceptable to Israel, and the US can't skip the disarmament phase. And the interim situation is so bad there because Hamas is strengthening itself since the end of the war, and there can be no rehabilitation before demilitarization. So, how will that play out between Trump and Netanyahu? I don't know. But the US position, according to these reports, is that, okay, let's forego the disarmament in order to keep the process moving. And then Israel's like, no reconstruction before disarmament, which is, it's kind of a loop, right? That we're in here.
Now they are
It's a
also
deadlock.
talking about like reconstruction only in the Israeli controlled areas, which is also not really new. I feel like this is something we heard about
Yeah.
for a while now,
Yeah.
and
And we talked
like
about,
the US wants to build, what is it, like internment camps in the so-called green
yes.
zone, and then like the rest of Gaza would just remain in complete destruction, as you said, Sim. And I don't know, Karim, if you actually got any videos of this or not, of the flooding of the camps, of the tents in Gaza, because
Yeah.
of course, winter's here. These people are living in inhumane conditions, to put it mildly. And I don't know. I feel like also this whole UNSC thing, the draft plan, it coincides with the visit of Mohammed bin Salman to the White House. He's due
To
to
the White
arrive.
House.
I'm not sure if later today or
I think
tomorrow,
he's
but
arrived. I think he's arrived. Reuters reported that he
his meeting with,
arrived.
but his meeting is scheduled for tomorrow at the end of the day.
Okay, yeah, that's true. Yeah,
So yeah, like he's there. They're talking about defense pact, F-35s. Israel doesn't care if Saudi Arabia gets F-35s. Why would they? We saw what
yeah,
happened with Qatar. We saw what happened, with where CENTCOM is based, where the Fifth Fleet is parked. Nobody cared when they got bombed by Israel. So
yeah.
yeah, I feel like all of these things are really starting to coalesce.
Right. I
Go
just
ahead.
wanted to comment that China and Russia will definitely not veto this. They will abstain, which means that the resolution can still pass.
Mhm.
In the joint Palestinian faction statement, they made a direct appeal to Algeria, calling on it to like reject this and maintain its principled support for Palestine. Why have they not called on China or Russia? Because they know they can't count on them for that. If Russia has this rival draft, and like, you know what I mean? So basically, I think what's expected is that the two of them will abstain and the resolution will still pass. I forget the number, what the prediction was, but like with at least, yeah, the required 9 votes, and then the both of them will abstain. And even if it passes, though, they'll have the issue of the disarmament deadlock, right? But so
Mhm.
anyway, we have the U.S. resolution, we have the rival draft by Russia, which is not that different, but at least it's like it's kind of closer to like Palestinian stance because it's not directly calling on like direct disarmament of Hamas and ISF
It
and
also
all that,
makes it
but
less about Trump, right? It's all of
makes
a sudden
definitely
less about
de-
Trump.
definitely. But it just, again, it's these failed US projects like in Gaza. Like, what's going to happen with the beachfront property? I don't know. I mean, they do want to split Gaza. We've been talking about it on the podcast, right? And now these internment camps and all of this idea of like the prosperous side and the non-prosperous side, and the side where there's the Hamas outcasts and the side with the anti-Hamas Palestinians who've been screened as anti-Hamas and all of this stuff. And it's like, really? I mean, you're like terrorizing everyone and cornering them into accepting your plan, and your plan does not exist. So no one can say what comes next, really.
Yes, well put, well put. Karim, do you have any thoughts about the UNSC vote or Russia's resolution of the situation in Gaza?
No, I don't think anybody will will veto this. يعني, the point is that the Arabs are divided within themselves and they don't have like a real lobby or a real vision for Gaza. Uh, and if they have vision, unfortunately, it's closer to the Israeli and American vision. So I don't think any Arab country has like the plan to urge any other country in the UN, including Russia and China, to veto any U.S. proposal or Israeli proposal regarding the Palestinians.
I think also, I think we should also make it clear, and I feel you guys agree with me that it's very unlikely that the Russian proposition will pass. You know, it's it's much more likely that the U.S. one will pass. We already seen Russia siding with the U.S. in particular. For example, the lifting the sanctions on Julani today, and we'll get into that in a minute. I don't want to jump ahead, but just to mention, the Syrian foreign minister also in Beijing making some very interesting promises. Um, I don't know if you guys want to add something else about this, or we can move on to a different situation relating Israel
No,
that
I
is
mean, I'm
developing.
just perplexed because maybe I don't understand the rules of politics. So, like, because Karim has this valid stance, which is like, don't criticize Russia and China, the Arabs are to blame. And it's like, I agree with that, but it doesn't make the Chinese or Russian stance better. I don't, I understand, like, the way Charmine would explain it would be like, oh, but it's their policy to, like, not interfere. Like, what business is it of Russia's to veto Trump's plan on Gaza? Well, I mean, if it amounts to foreign occupation, I would expect, or I would imagine, that anybody with veto power would veto such a horrific plan. So I understand, Karim, but I don't see how the Arabs being like horrible excuses Russia or China not vetoing such a horrible resolution. And that's just maybe my emotional, like, brain. I don't see how it works. Like, oh, Russia has nothing to do with our region. It's not, it doesn't owe us anything. But like,
I think it's a
really? Like,
message. Honestly, the way I see it, and I'll let you go on, Karim. Sorry, it's just I feel like it's kind of a message to the world, right? When you have a full-blown genocide going on, and that doesn't break your strategic disengagement or whatever the hell they like to call it,
I don't know what they call it.
you're kind of sending a message to the rest of the world and telling them, you know what? If you burn, you burn. Is the cost of doing business, I guess. Karim, do you have any thoughts?
No, Seema said it very well. That's my thoughts about regarding Russia and China. And we have to know that Russia and China, they don't like push their propaganda or their NGOs in other countries declaring or saying that they are like the freedom fighters of the world and that they want to get other countries to be democratic and to give them like prosperity and the democratic world is the best and blah blah blah. So that's why we criticize the West more than other countries. So that's my my answer, because if I want to go into that, we need a separate episode.
There's a great comment here by Flower Power CFT2FP. What is the point of being a balancing force if you can't?
Very well
I
put.
mean, I feel the same way. Until now, nobody has been able to explain to me this strategic disengagement, as you describe it, Esteban. I simply, as
I
an
mean,
angry little Arab, I don't understand it. So,
I don't know.
yeah.
Like I said, I feel like this is just a message to everyone else too. Everyone's just kind of on their own, and we gotta save each other. There's a lot of anger currently in Israel too, not just about the UNSC proposal, and not just about the US kind of, I guess, in the Zionist point of view, turning their back on them. It's about Netanyahu ordering his own investigation into October 7th and kind of I'm not sure if he actually canceled it or just like no, he shuts down calls for a state inquiry. So
Right.
Netanyahu wants to investigate himself essentially for the failures of
Uh,
October 7th, and we have known for two
he's the
years
only one
now
left, I think.
of the leadership to step down.
Yeah, I think he's the only one left. No, he fired everybody, or
Oh,
the
you
rest.
mean like out of Gallant and all of
Yeah,
these?
Out of the
I
senior
mean, pretty
leadership.
much.
Kind of, yeah, because Ron Dermer also left a few days ago.
yeah.
So
Everybody left, so it's only
That was a
Netanyahu now.
mystery. To those who don't know, Ron Dermer is the Minister for Strategic Affairs, and he played a very big role in in the Gaza negotiations, actually. And he just mysteriously resigned, and we'll never know the real reason, will we?
probably not
Um,
until
no.
some emails leak down the line. So yeah, this is interesting because, as Karim points out, and this is really, like the heart of the matter, Netanyahu has left and right for more than 2 years avoided taking any responsibility for what happened on 7 October. Although, when you're the prime minister of a nation, the buck's supposed to stop with you, right? Like everything kind of falls on your lap and your responsibility. So now, of course, he wants his own investigation, more likely than not to absolve himself. Although for the past 2 years, we have already seen multiple investigations or reports that go from the Israeli government ignored a deluge of intelligence warnings about what was about to happen on October 7 to Netanyahu's aides changing the minutes of the calls that day when he first got warned, the first orders. Not even to go into the Hannibal Directive. We have many episodes here at the podcast in which we've dealt into the situation with the Hannibal Directive. So, yet another attempt from the Netanyahu government, or well, Netanyahu himself at this point, to bury the truth of what happened, to avoid accountability, and I don't know,
Mm.
strengthen his position
And
ahead of next year's elections.
yes, and internally they try to frame it as though there's like flexibility there. So they, it like in the Israeli media, they were like, okay, so the government has decided to work on forming an independent investigation committee, right, to probe the events of 7 October, granting it full powers. That's what they tell the public. But the government claims, right, that the committee will have full authority. But the Israeli opposition are all furious and they reject it. And because they insist on having, like you said, a state commission of inquiry, similar to the one that was formed after the 1973 October War, what they call Yom Kippur. So that's a commission that would have like the power to recommend actions against senior politicians, right? Which Netanyahu doesn't want, and military commanders. Whereas, like with this, the scope and the powers of this thing that they're setting up now are unclear. I don't know. I don't think that you can recommend or take any action against any senior officials who have been implicated in any way. So he's again just, you know,
Covering his
weaseling
ass.
his yeah, he's being a weasel. So
He covering
He,
his ass.
he even forced Trump to write a letter for Herzog, for the president of the for the Israeli president. Trump wrote a letter and he asked for a pardon for Netanyahu. And the answer from the president, he said he should write it himself, yani, meaning that Netanyahu should write a letter and send it to us so we can look into it. So I think this is very important. And I think, unfortunately, if we look back in time and we check what happened, I think thousands of people died as an excuse for Netanyahu not to go to the court. Unfortunately, he waged several attacks and waged wars upon wars just to postpone his hearing in the court, which is insane. So I think Netanyahu, if he got the pardon, he will not go into politics maybe again. I don't know, but I think his aim is not to be prosecuted in Israel, and Trump and the United States behind him, they are really working for that. So we'll see what will happen.
I think the likelihood of seeing Netanyahu in shackles, much more behind bars, it's like, beyond imagination at this point. I do not
Yeah,
think that is really going to happen, neither in Israel, much less in
at
The
least
Hague.
for like the upcoming 3 years.
the
I have no
idea
doubt he is gonna be reelected next year, unless like something major and unexpected happens.
No, I just wanted to say the idea of like Netanyahu being held to account or being tried or imprisoned is less likely than the possibility of Israel ceasing to exist. Like that's how not likely it is. And like
Especially that Trump and the American government is behind him. He really
yeah,
tweeted. Trump tweeted it, talked about it twice in Israel and the United States, and he wrote a letter for the Israeli president about that. And when he went to the Knesset, he also spoke about that. He said he's a hero, he's a great man. You should not prosecute this person. So I don't know how many
right.
photos there are. Yani. Now we
Or
are hearing. Yani,
videos.
yeah, there's donkeys and horses. Yani. We'll see. We'll see.
Oh wait, the Epstein emails?
Yeah,
Anyway,
of course. يعني I'm 100% convinced. Yeah.
that
just
he's the
a fun thing that maybe our viewers already saw, but it came out 2 days ago. So apparently, Harvard has a doomsday vault for Israel where they're
Yeah.
preserving Israeli culture in case Israel ceases to exist.
Tabbouleh
So
and hummus.
it's like a secret Harvard archive that preserves tens of thousands of publications and artifacts and political materials and all, in case like the state stops existing, which I found very, very amusing actually.
Yeah,
Um,
their food is
yeah, it's good.
Lebanese. Their music is Egyptian, and, and yeah,
yes,
and
yes.
and the
Yeah,
trees
no.
that he brought from Europe. It's insane. يعني very very beautiful heritage.
So, well, let's move on to the situation in Lebanon. What's been happening over the past couple of days? Now, this is nothing has changed. Truly,
Mm.
the reality on the ground is the same. Reports about Israel building a wall inside Lebanese territory, though I believe that has not been confirmed yet. Um, Murders, bombings, destruction. Sadly, just another day in this reality that we find ourselves in. What exactly is going down in the south? Karim, why don't you tell us a bit about it?
First, about the wall and about the border, this is fully on the Lebanese side. There is not clear commands, and even there is not clear commands on how many people are detained or they are captured by the Israeli forces during the war. So love the Lebanese government love to put their own people underwear in like uh, in the dark. They don't like to say what's happening as if it's like something something very exciting to do. And regarding what's happening in Lebanon, still every now and then we have a breaking. We look on the breaking, and it's Israeli drone or airplane targeting a car, and sometimes it's a person from Hezbollah, and sometimes a teacher, and sometimes a doctor, and sometimes kids. But unfortunately, in the
UNIFIL,
Western
don't forget
media,
UNIFIL.
UNIFIL, yeah, I'm getting to UNIFIL.
Hmm.
But unfortunately, in the Lebanese media, most of the Lebanese media and most of other media, they report exactly what the Israelis say. And for instance, 2 days ago, they target a car and they killed a person, and this person was a manager in the school, Sima.
School principal.
He was you mean yesterday? They
Yeah,
murdered a school principal
a
of,
school.
it was Al Mansouri in South Lebanon, and it was the main official school of Al Mansouri, and they just murdered the school principal. Maybe you could
Yeah,
pull up
but
his
for
picture.
yeah, I will put his picture now, and of course the Israelis said يعني they targeted a member of Hezbollah, but he's like a principal for a school for small children, for instance. So that's what's happening in Lebanon, and of course we're hearing that Israel might escalate and they might invade, and every now and then they are saying that they are going to a mini cabinet or small cabinet.
Security cabinet, no?
Yes, or security cabinet, the small
Hmm.
one, to
Yes.
like discuss what will happen in Lebanon. And yeah, the government or parts of the government are fully with Israel, unfortunately, and the other part is some parts are like not with Hezbollah, but also not with Hezbollah, not with Israel. So there's somehow also chaos in Lebanon. And of course, the most important thing that's happening in Lebanon now is the election. Uh, يعني most of the news outlets and maybe people that are talking about the elections which will happen next year more than unfortunately the people that are dying for no reason in the south. And as Sima said before, even if the person who is targeted with Hezbollah, of course Israel has no right to kill anybody in Lebanon, even if it's
Especially
Hezbollah or
during
if
a ceasefire. I
even if
mean,
he's like with Hamas, they don't have to the right to kill anybody in Lebanon. There's a ceasefire, there's an agreement, and of course the Lebanese government and Hezbollah, they fully implemented this agreement except for Israel. Uh, and that's what's happening, unfortunately. And still, Hala, today, sorry, I was, maybe the viewers saw I was reading because the Secretary General
Hezbollah.
of Hezbollah, I was reading what he said. He
Naim
said,
Assam.
yeah, Naim Qasim, he said, يعني what's happening in Lebanon is not like preemptive attacks or like minor attacks. It's a war that is being continued on Lebanon. But unfortunately, till now, we don't see any response from Hezbollah locally or abroad.
Very quick parenthesis here. Thank you so much to Clifford Boustria for the first super chat of the day. Thank you so much for your generosity. And this gives me the chance to remind everyone, hit that like button, guys. It really helps us out. Thank you so much for your support.
Thank you.
Truly, the situation in Lebanon. I think you bring a very interesting parallel there, Karim, about the upcoming elections, because it's not that long, right? I think it's in May that the elections are coming.
Yeah.
You know, are this going to be elections under fire? Are this going to be elections under Israeli fire? The last I saw from the Israelis about Lebanon was some reports of them saying we might start a war for a few days. And we're just gonna start
Yeah.
like some incursions, some bombing. Who the hell knows exactly what they mean? And at the same time, we had the reports last week about the Syrian fighters, or well, the foreign fighters in Syria, being moved to the border. So, like, how are you supposed to hold elections? How are you supposed to do anything? When you have literally two guns pointed at your head.
Regarding Lebanon, usually they find solutions at the last second, although they are not they are not very good solutions. One of them that was suggested over the past 2 days that they will extend the period of the parliament and the period of the government, so they will like not do an election, and this happened like I think the past time. And the past time when the elections were held, they were held after postponing two times the real elections in Lebanon. Yani, a deputy that should sit for instance, 6 years, he sat for 10 years, and it was somehow normal, and there was no war, and there was nothing, there was no
So
explosion.
now you're saying they have even more of an excuse to do the same.
Yeah, they might do it. The only one that's really pushing back is Jaja, who's the head of the Lebanese forces. Lebanese forces, the party of not the Lebanese forces, the army that we often talk about, and we have an article about him on the Cradle. If somebody wants to talk, he was like a very prominent figure in the Lebanese civil war, and he killed many people from Christians to Muslims to other ethnicities like Palestinians and Syrians. So he's the only one who's pushing back, and of course his vision aligns 100% with the Israelis.
Thank you so much to Martin Hernandez also for their super chat. Thank you very
I
much for
thought
your
I thought for
generosity.
me, I thought we're done.
Thank you, Karim.
Uh,
Yeah, you can go.
Yeah,
No,
and
I'm kidding.
thank you, Martin
Hernandez.
Hernandez. Thank you.
Thank you so much. What were you going to say,
So
Sima?
I wanted to ask Karim, Unifil, was it yesterday or today that the Unifil were attacked? Wasn't it a Merkava tank that I think fired on Unifil personnel?
Yes, yeah, I'm sharing the link of the
I mean,
statement.
how does this shock us? I mean, didn't they call the UN Hamas? Like, why
Yeah,
didn't they
what was
destroy
his
like
name?
hospitals?
The Israeli envoy to the UN saying this building needs to be bombed.
No, I mean, like, I feel nothing. Like, they murdered like
Yeah,
hundreds of thousands of our people, and I'm supposed to, and everyone's like, Unifil, like,
Well, you see,
so.
no,
UNIFIL
but this,
sometimes can be white people, Sima. So
yeah, 100%, Sima, you missed
But
that. Seema, you missed that. It's okay. It's okay.
I,
So the what I'm sharing now is the official website of the UNIFIL, which is the UN forces in Lebanon. They want, yani, or the peace fighters or whatever they call them. So if we read in the statement, they say this was yesterday, 16 November. They say this morning the Israeli Defense Forces, which is the IDF for them, fired on UNIFIL peacekeepers from a Merkava tank from near a position Israel has established in Lebanese territory. Heavy machine gun rounds hit approximately 5 meters from the peacemakers. So what we are reading here is an official statement from a force from the UN saying that the Israelis fired bullets and fired a
tank
Merkava
shells.
round, yes, on
Mm.
them, and the ammunition like went approximately 5 meters away from them. And of course, in the media and even in Lebanon, nobody said anything. Yani, this in news, I came across it by chance. I'm just want our
Remember,
viewers,
sorry,
yes,
sorry, Karim, to cut you off, but just in that exact point. Remember when Hezbollah reportedly fired on UNIFIL or
yes,
like injured
exactly.
some?
That's 100%. What happened once in Lebanon, which is not long ago, a guy was protecting his land, and the UN came to his land without the Lebanese army. They have to only move the Lebanese army, and we know it's. Yeah, I'm not accusing anybody, but there's many articles and everybody talks about it. And of course, there's spies in the UN or UNIFIL, sorry, in the UNIFIL forces. That's what the people say, and that's why they only allow them to move, or يعني the people that are in the south and where there is UNIFIL, usually they move with the army. So once a guy like raised his voice over a peacekeeper, and he like somehow slapped him, and Lebanon for 1 week, everybody, head of parties, head of whatever the country, the prime minister, everybody was like talking about him, and of course they said that's Hezbollah, and Hezbollah started to blah blah blah. But when this happens in in Lebanon, and this happened not from the Israeli border, it's happened if we look into the statement they say has established in Lebanese territory. Yani Israel came, made a checkpoint. They put a Merkava there, and they fired bullets at the UN there, and nobody said anything. Just imagine if, for instance, whatever Italy fired at whatever German soldiers anywhere in Ukraine, for instance. Imagine what will happen.
Like the double standard is
It's
obscene,
it's insane.
honestly.
That
Yeah.
that's insane. The point is that the double standard is not only from the West; it's also inside Lebanon, which is very sad.
It's truly sad. It really is sad, and I
Sima
think
is
you
very
know
sad.
I feel like exactly what Sima says. Like,
Yeah,
why does this matter? Like we've seen it happen so many times now. Israelis bombing the UN, trying to dismantle the UNRWA, saying that the UN is Hamas. I mean, they have normalized their barbarity to the
they
point in
they,
which
they even I think they torn up the UN constitution or the UN
the charter. Ah,
the
yes,
charter of the
yes,
UN. Yeah, they did it.
yes,
Yeah,
true.
in
He
two
did it
years ago.
at the General Assembly.
Yeah,
Remember, he
inside
stood there.
inside. Yeah, 100% inside the building.
In his little shredder.
Oh my
Yeah,
That
God,
man was epic. What was his name?
I can't remember.
Gilad Erdan. Epic,
yeah.
epic
Yes.
performance artist.
He's the dude with with the little yellow stars. Like he always, like him and Netanyahu always with
What
the
a guy.
visual aids, always with the visual aids. They never fail to entertain. Um, so yeah, well, the situation in Lebanon, as we say, truly horrific. We'll continue to update as anything happens, but unfortunately, this is the situation. In particular, in the south, to the deafening silence of the government, to the not really shocking inaction to of the army. The people of the south of Lebanon at this point being told you you can never return home, you can never rebuild, you can never restart your lives, and this is going to be a situation that I feel the Israelis are going to continue to impose. Let's move to Syria. A couple of interesting things happening in Syria. As I said a few minutes ago, the foreign minister Shaibani, I can't remember his first name, ex Al-Qaeda
Assad.
commander Assad
Yeah.
Assad
Assad Shaibani.
Assad Shaibani
The
is
one
in
and only.
he's in Beijing, shaking hands with the Chinese foreign minister, getting the welcome he deserves, of course. Um, and more interesting, according to AFP, pledging that the government of Abu Muhammad al Julani is going to transfer 400 Uyghur fighters, extremists from the Xinjiang region of China, who are currently in Syria, reportedly part of the so-called army of this new Syrian government, that he's going to hand them over to China. What, brothers in arms, I think it's the term here. Like until it's convenient for us to just kick you in the ass and send you back home so you can face prosecution for more than likely terrorism. So yeah,
Yeah,
go
yeah.
ahead.
So before we went online, the Syrian government denied this. They said no, they were not sending anybody
Well, they
to.
must. They have to.
Yeah, it was reported by Reuters, and they said that Reuters is lying. Reuters, Sima loves Reuters a lot. you know, Reuters sometimes they
Mm.
make up things, but in this particular, يعني, this this might happen. Why not? You know what I mean? Yani, nobody wants the Chinese Uyghurs in Syria. I think, including Shara, because they are from different, maybe mentality, ethnicity, and they are very hard to like camouflage. Yani, if you have somebody coming from the Caucasus or from, I don't know, Shishan, he might look like somehow Syrian, but the Chinese are different, and what they are doing, trying to do, is to like hide such people. And we saw that even in his government, in his security government, there is people that were like chosen by Sharia, and when they went to the cameras, they have like baklava on their heads, so people can't recognize that they are not Syrians.
Balaclavas.
Balaklavas, sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, so we'll see what will happen. But yeah, I can't believe Reuters nor Syria, but I think there's something or talks about such things. And I don't think even the Chinese will care to get back some people that went to Syria and like committed massacres.
I mean,
We'll see.
yeah, everyone seems to be comfortable with this new Al Qaeda government in Syria.
Yeah.
I sent you a picture, Karim, that maybe is worth putting up. It's the structure of the Syrian Defense Ministry and who these people are, starting, of course, with the friend Julani. So, well, now you know beyond the normalization of this regime in Syria, there has been some massacres in Sueda, if I understand correctly, Sima.
Ah, no. Well, there were the massacres in Sueda back in July.
Mhm.
But the idea of, which is actually linked to what you guys
Mm.
are talking about with Syria handing over reportedly Uyghurs to China, which is that I don't know if you guys recall, there were the coastal massacres back in March, and then shortly after, a couple of months after, if I'm not mistaken, it's the Syrian interim government like formed like a fact-finding committee to like investigate what happened there, and basically nothing came out of it. Well, they have now done the same thing for Sweden. The clashes that happened in Sweden, which were started by the government-aligned Bedouin um, militants, just to be clear, because back in the days of the coastal massacres, there were some ambushes that some Alawites carried out, and then they'd use that as an excuse to do ethnic cleansing in the Syrian coast. No, well, the Sweda time around, which was back in July, it was
Mhm.
the other side, quote unquote, who started this deliberately. So there were clashes with Druze militants, but there was also massacres of innocent men, women, and children solely based on the fact that they were Druze. So my point being here, uh, hundreds upon hundreds were massacred. We have the footage. There is evidence coming out every day. And there are many Telegram channels doing a great job of documenting this stuff as it continues to emerge months later. So, my point here is just recently, Syria has now formed a new fact finding committee for the Sweda massacres. And trust me, nothing is going to come of that either. The reason I'm also bringing it up, I have not gone into a lot of detail on this yet. I'm going to report on it. I haven't sat down and done all the research on it. But one thing I can tell you is that according to them, they concluded that there were no foreign militants in Sweden. Would you believe that? Karim, I sent you something on Telegram. Maybe
Look
you
at,
could
I mean,
open it.
just before you pull down this
We
picture, I just
have
want
the
to mention
videos.
very
Like, but
clearly,
yeah, go
like,
ahead.
look at these faces, look at these commanders of the Syrian Defense Ministry. I mean, people who literally cut their teeth in Al Qaeda and the Islamic State, and now you want us to believe that first of all they had nothing to do with the massacres of ethnic minorities, and second of all they will independently investigate themselves.
This, Simo,
Show me the one that's two videos.
yeah,
Yeah, but
I think it's too much for YouTube.
well, okay. Well, anyway, the point is,
I can. What I will do is I will link this tweet to our audience on the
okay,
description
it's
below.
basically just footage of foreign fighters that were captured by Druze factions during the clashes and the massacres taking place in South Syria's Sweda. I remember back then, how many months ago is July now? Like 4 months ago. I
Yeah.
remember seeing countless documentation of foreign fighters, and now this Al Qaeda
Yeah,
led
yeah.
investigation committee is claiming that it hasn't been proven that foreign fighters took part in the Sweda events. Like,
You
I
don't even need evidence, man. They went to their on their Facebook accounts and they spread the videos. And there's no, you don't even to need to have effort or knowledge to know. Just if you know Arabic, you can go to Facebook and write Syrian Igor or Syrian whatever Moroccan. Man, that's their names. Man, the problem is that their names on Facebook is like this. It's like the Chinese Syrian or the for instance the Moroccan in Sham, which is
Yeah,
mean
like
the Al-Maghribi fi Sham, which is the Moroccan in the Levant. That's their names. You can see them. They put them. They film themselves and they put them on Facebook, of course, because they are not doing anything against Israel. Meta will not take any of these their videos off. So it's
Mm,
very easy to find.
not
Yani,
the
you can,
but
sharpest
it's true,
tool.
yeah, you'll have names like, I don't know, whatever, Karim the Chechen, or
yeah,
like
100%.
Hassan the Algerian.
Yeah,
Like that's what
so easy.
that's the equivalent of in Arabic, basically how they name themselves. But anyway, so I mean, really, is it even worth going into the details of this when from the get-go they're like, oh, there were no foreign fighters in Sweden? What does that tell you about this freaking investigation committee? Like the coastal one was a
This is,
joke.
yeah, this is, like, exactly
I
what
mean,
Netanyahu is doing with his own probe, right? You just clear me, just clear me. This is like
no,
the
like
Syrians
people
have
are,
taken.
yeah, people are like, you like trashing us for like trashing the Al-Qaeda government, and it's like, you haven't shown me anything to take seriously. Like if you like, there's
Sima, but
nothing
also
there.
But
Like,
also we have to understand these people, and these people were taught since they were young or since their birth that the savior is coming and Bashar al-Assad is not good, and he's like with Israel, and the new leader will be against Israel, and he will like make Syria and other countries around him prosperous. So
right,
they
but
have this hope. So they don't want you to come and give them the reality. Let them live in their imagination for a few years, and they will learn what's really happening
I
by
know, but it's
themselves.
like being brain dead at this point, because honestly, a lot of people who did not like Bashar al-Assad, I mean, when you have a brain, let's say you and your family were up against Bashar al-Assad. Like there are all kinds of people. There are the people who've been against him from the start. There are people who were with Bashar al-Assad during the war and then turned against him after the war because of the government's corruption. There are people, all kinds of people. So a lot of people with brains who hated the Assad family also hate the Al-Qaeda government.
Yeah, but
Right.
these
But
people are
then you
not.
have the
Yeah,
people who are like, in like, they are NPCs, and basically, even if you tell them like, even if you show them that they're committing massacres, even if you show them that they are carrying out like that they're
Ethnic
taking part in
cleansing, yeah.
corruption, they don't care. Yeah, ethnic cleansing, corruption, forced, whatever it is, like they don't care.
The
You know what I mean?
disappearances of the girls. I mean, truly a horrible situation.
Like
This is
even
the
if
this is the new Middle
Bashar
East.
al-Assad, like Bashar al-Assad is like the devil incarnate or whatever. Like it doesn't, like, again, it's like
That doesn't make
how are
Shara
we?
better, It doesn't make this
No, but I mean,
government structure
again, like
better.
what? Like no foreign fighters in Sweden? Like are we? Like I'm. That's why I haven't even reported on it yet. Like the Cradle hasn't reported on that on social media because I'm like, what do we? What do you write? Like what do you? It's ridiculous. Anyway,
Anyway, guys, let's move on. Let's move on to
I wanted to ask you, what do you think will come out of the visit of MBS to Washington?
mhm.
Because we know normalization is a no, and I don't think he's going to give him F-35s. I mean, what's the civilian
I mean,
nuclear
here's the
program or
question,
the?
right? Like,
why not? I think he can give him F-35.
No,
I
he
think
won't.
the question
It's
here
not
is
that.
if he
Yes.
agrees to give him F-35s, when are they going to be delivered? Because this is all like long term uh, promises. Was Saudi
Why would he
Arabia?
give? Why would he give Saudi F-35s when he hasn't given Turkey F-35s?
Yeah,
And I feel
because
like Saudi
Turkey. Yes. Yeah.
is like. Go ahead, go ahead.
Yes. No, no.
No, no,
It's
go.
I don't have like the evidence, but in the recent years we saw that F-35 is not that mystery plane as they marketed it, the Americans, and it's not like F-22 Raptors or other military assets that they refuse to give to other countries, like the Patriot or other defensive weapons. So, and even to Israel, and there's weapons that they gave to Israel, they gave it with the soldiers to operate because they even refused Israel, the Israeli proposal for Israel to operate in it. So I think F-35, the hype of the F-35 is so low, and I think they will give it to Saudi Arabia.
Two
As
things I
simple,
want to mention.
Who have they
that's what I
given
think.
F-35s to in this region?
Yeah,
Israel.
after Esteban comment, I will give
I
you the
want to just
numbers.
mention two things. One, I think Flower Power is on point here in the comments. They say, what is it like about what MBS's visit is going to lead to? Swapping photos. They say, I agree with that. I think
I
there's going to be
agree.
some photos exchanged. Um,
I
What I
have the
wanted to
answer if you want,
go ahead,
Simo.
go ahead.
Of course, United States, UK, Italy, Japan, Australia, Israel, Netherlands, Norway, South Korea, Denmark, Poland, Belgium, Singapore, and other nations like Canada, Czech Republic, Finland, Greece, Germany, Romania, blah, blah, blah. But for
Oh,
instance, Switzerland, yeah, the list goes on. But for instance, the F-22, for instance, only United States operates it. Some defensive missiles, only the US or Israel, and some few countries
what
operate
you
it.
just read is the list of countries that US has given F-35 to.
Yes, yes.
But you proved my point. Not a single country from West Asia has been given F-35s because Israel simply doesn't want them to have them. That's my point.
We'll see.
Even
We'll
though
see.
what you're saying is correct, like it's not that big of a plane, like. But I don't because look, I'm commenting here just quickly on this hysteria, Israeli hysteria in the media that they do. They did it last week with Turkey, where Amichai Stein was like, "Oh, Israel has approached the Americans and requesting that they carefully study and reconsider the issue of selling fighter jets to Turkey, because we don't want this to happen. Turkey can't have such an advanced fighter jet." And they do this hysteria in the media, even though they know the US won't give it to Turkey. And same with Saudi, by the way. Yediot Ahronot, Israel's newspaper yesterday, the headline was the deal. Israel gives up qualitative military edge, and Saudi gives up a Palestinian state. So the Israelis are saying, "Oh, we'll let US give Saudi the F-35s if Saudi gives up its demand for a Palestinian state." So again, this hysteria of like, we don't want Saudi and Turkey to have them, but oh, okay, Saudi will have to give that up and let someone we'll have to give up our advantage and military edge
Yeah,
that we
yeah,
have.
but
It's all theater. Like someone in the comments was saying kabuki, kabuki. It's
Mhm.
kabuki. It's kabuki. Like
yeah,
Israel knows that the US I will pay you money if US gives fighter jets to Saudi or Turkey like in the next year.
okay, but we are discussing it as if the Mohammed bin Salman is going there to ask for 35. There's bigger things, I guess.
I think the
You
nuclear
have the
program is bigger.
AI, they have the nuclear program, exactly, Slima. There are like
Yeah,
the
okay.
region. We have
But
something
the
called Abraham
AI
Accord.
is
Yes,
whatever.
Okay, let me
sorry.
read you something because
No,
remember
the
earlier.
it,
Remember earlier this year, Trump was in Saudi, and this was when he secured like a however many $1 trillion from all the Gulf countries. Saudi pledged to invest 600 billion in the U.S., including defense sales agreement, AI data centers, energy infrastructure, and technology investment, etc., etc. So I feel like this is gonna be like the second part. This visit is gonna be like the second part of that. Now we are gonna see what the U.S. is gonna give back. I feel like the nuclear development might be on the table. The whole AI thing seems to be number one on the list. And I don't disagree with Karim in saying like the F-35s are probably not that much of a question mark anymore because of
well, they'll
the
have to consult with Israel. We'll see. I mean, even
Yeah,
if
of
the
course, of
value's gone
course.
down, even if it's not the most, like I get that. I'm not saying the F-35 is like this.
لا of course Sima 100% يعني even Egypt or any other country in the region if they want to buy anything not even from the United States and even from Germany has to consult the Israelis until Israelis say yes and this was surfaced like
Right,
5 years ago regarding
right.
the submarines that Egypt bought from Germany. I
Okay,
just want
so
to say something also. I think we will see the same humiliation again this time. I will put up this historic pictures that was taken in Trump's first term. I think he will get a bigger board, you know. Yeah. Yeah, here it's 12.5 billion. I think it will be like 25 billion and the board will be bigger. And that's what I accept from the visit.
that
Hala, of
is
course,
insane.
Sharmeen has many things to say regarding this. We'll
no,
see.
when it comes to normalization, I'm now on Team Charmin. I mean, I think Saudi's totally Zionist and that it's already unofficially normalized with Israel.
Here's
But
here's
as
here's my
formally,
question,
I do
guys.
not think that they will normalize now. Right now, I don't think so. Not because they're honorable, not because they're sovereign. I just don't think that they will normalize right now.
I think
So
I
it's
you
not really
know
Team Charmin. It's between Karim and Charmin, somewhere in the middle. Sorry, Esteban, go
What
ahead.
do you guys think? What do you guys think this visit means for Yemen, though? I feel like that's really the question here, because the Yemen question has not been answered yet, and the Yemenis have declared that they stopped their attacks in the Red Sea and against Israel, etc. But this is also conditioned on the advancement of the peace plan, of phase two, all of this, which we already discussed that there's no plan really. to get there. Is there even the slight possibility that Saudi Arabia will agree to be that war front to try to bring down Ansar Allah?
They tried before, and even the Americans themselves they tried before, and behind them, of course, the Egyptians and the Emiratis, and the coalition was consisted of 12 countries, including even African countries. And the most important one was Sudan. But now we see that the Sudani army is unfortunately busy fighting other factions. And I don't think they can recruit as many Sudanese as they did last time, because the most people that did the fighting against Ansar Allah from 2015 to 2018 19 were the Sudanese. They were not the
Mhm.
Saudis or the Emiratis. And uh, and of course during or following 7 October and the support that Ansarullah showed to the Palestinians, of course, they made also coalitions, European and American coalitions against Ansarullah, and both failed. But I think the aim for Ansarullah currently is economical. I think they will
Hmm.
try, and they every day they think about Ansarullah how to destroy them. But I think they will try to do what they did in Syria, maybe put sanctions and forget for 10 years, and then we will see what we will do. Because in what's happening in Yemen is that the majority of the population is under the control of Ansar Allah or under the government of Ansar Allah, unlike other places in what happened in the region. For instance, in Syria, there were many big cities under the control of the West or Israel or the Mu'arada, the Thawar, as they call them, and the same in Libya. The point in Yemen is different, but as you said, I think 100% they will talk about it. But I don't think Trump, after what he said and after the propaganda that he declared that the peace is coming for the Middle East, I don't think Saudi Arabia has the power or the
So,
reason to
mhm.
allow to ignite a new war.
To be
Yeah,
devil's
I mean,
advocate here for a second, let me just add
yeah.
something very quickly, Sima. Is that the war against Yemen was led by Saudi Arabia, but as you said, kind of involved the UAE, and now the UAE is kind of like the global hub of mercenary warfare. They're working with Eric Prince, they're working with like others, and you have kind of like the war on Venezuela seems to be a non-starter for the moment, at least, right? Like Donald Trump really seems to be pushing back against it or trying to delay it as much as possible, even though he already has so many ships right off the coast. So I feel like a lot of these mercenaries are looking for work. Like the GHF has shut down. The situation in Gaza, it's maintaining, itself somehow. It's just like with Israel. There's not a lot of mercenary presence there anymore. So I feel like they can be funneled, right? You all of a sudden have this army of soldiers of fortunes that simply can be sent, and they don't have to be Sudanese. They can be, Colombian. They can be where else do they well, it's like they have so many nations that
Yeah,
they draft soldiers from. So I wouldn't put it past them to do this, because we're kind of entering that era now, the era in which war is waged by AI, is waged by mercenaries, and drone warfare, all of that. So it really is a question, because I feel like the Israelis
Yeah.
are not going to be very happy to just kind of wait it out 10 years with the Yemenis.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be like a direct military involvement by
Mhm.
Saudi Arabia or a direct front. If it's mercenaries, maybe they will help the US and Israel to mobilize against Ansar Allah in different ways, whether it's economic through different
You have
companies
the
posing to be
airstrips.
intelligence gathering.
Mhm.
You know what I
yeah,
mean?
but we have
Like
to know also.
mercenaries,
Yes, Sima, I fully understand you,
because they're
but
planning stuff for
yeah,
Yemen.
but Yemen is not like Syria. There is no Russians, there is no Iranians, there is no influence. You have only the head of the of Ansar Allah, the Houthi, and that's it.
I know, but we're talking about
So
what they're
if
going to try.
yes, yes, but also we have to acknowledge that the Israelis and the Americans in this area in particular, they are not that stupid. They have the history here, and they did unfortunately many coups, and they won wars in our region. So the point is that if I was an American or an Israeli, God forbid, I will not ignite a war against Ansarullah, because any war against Ansarullah now, including mercenaries, will backfire, because the mercenaries and the people that are against Ansarullah in Yemen, they are not that powerful. You will
Mhm.
allow Ansarullah to take over the whole country. That's my
Mm.
opinion and my understanding of Yemen
I'm just
in
seeing
this current situation.
they're exploring options, so it probably would will be
Yeah.
part of the visit,
And I feel like, yeah,
even if it's not
Saudi Arabia is always going to be presented with that, like at the end of the day, they want them to be kind of like the war front. Well, guys, I think there were other a couple of other topics we maybe wanted to get into, but I feel like we can wrap up this week's episode here. I want to thank everyone who joined, everyone who left a comment, everyone who left the likes. We're really high with likes today. That is so great. The high number of likes. That's really good. Thank you so much. Make sure again to subscribe, to check our memberships, to check out our Patreon. Please, you can become a direct supporter or of the Cradle. Continues to help us do the work that we do here. And also check out our thecradle.co, where you can also find ways to donate and merchandise, Cradle merchandise that you can get for yourselves. Thank you so much, Sima. Thank you, Karim. We'll see you next